Greetings. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. Welcome aboard to everybody who is currently here. I'm just reading the comments because apparently there's already a bunch of comments here, and I just started. It's amazing. All right, so peace to everybody who's already here. I figure if I try to schedule these in advance, then maybe you won't miss them. Today we're going to read chapter 3 from the current book of study this month, which is The Paths of Pravritti and Niverty by Swami Niranjanananda Saraswati. Swami Niranjanananda Saraswati is the leader of the Bihar School of Yoga, which is a highly advanced school that teaches yoga and tantra principles to people of all levels, from absolute beginner to extremely advanced practitioner. So the first book of study that we've been on is The Paths of Pravritti and Niverty, and this is basically a book about managing the mind, right? We talk about mind control. We talk about the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, and how to shape your reality, how to manifest, and all these things. All of that and every aspect of spirituality and magic, it all boils down to the same fundamental starting point. And that fundamental starting point is management of the mind. I don't care what you practice, what you call yourself, what label, it all boils down to the fundamental foundation of management of the mind. Any magical grimoire or class or you know order or any group that you belong to, if they don't start at that level, then you know might not be where you want to be to advance. So anyway, that's where we're about to start. So greetings everybody who's present. Frame Star Films, peace and greetings, my bro. Peace and greetings. First Eye Vision, peace, peace. Nicole Berkeley, greetings, greetings. April 2 States, 1984. Been a while. Greetings. Okay, so gonna make my way over to the text. All right. Harley has been shaved completely. All right. All right. Setting up the tech chat here on my laptop, and we will get started. So, of course, if you have the book, then hopefully you already read it. If not, then this is a good opportunity to read along and highlight some parts that may be very interesting to you. And if you don't have the book, I highly recommend getting it so that you can follow along and make your own notes and progress and whatnot. Mad Bear, peace, peace. Gerald Sombright, greetings, bro. Sunshine Chick, good evening. Kate Mama, peace, peace. All right. So, let's get started, shall we? The dog has left. What the dog doing? All right, let's begin. Paths of Pravritti and Nivritti. All right, thank you. So everybody on board, of course, go ahead and like the video, because, as I say each time, this helps YouTube to, push the videos and promote them and get them to the people who need to see them. So if you like the content, go ahead and like the content. So we're going to get to chapter 3, which is Harmonizing Pravritti, Discovering Niverty. And this is what we'll be talking about on Sunday in the book study group. So if you'd like to be a part of that, of course, go ahead and sign up where it says join, which is right next to the subscribe button here on my channel. And yeah, if you'd care to share your thoughts, by all means, join up. So we talked about the Traveler's Tale, and that basically was going over the whole allegory, metaphor of how we are travelers on this path towards the center, right? Towards the unity of divinity. And we've taken a stop here. Yeah, we're on the journey towards the city of light. We've taken a stop here at Hotel Earth, and it's very easy to get stuck here because the hotel staff is extremely kind. They don't want you to leave. The Path of Pravritti, Chapter 2, really broke down what the vrittis are, how they're created, how they affect you, and different things that you can do to start to detach yourself from those vrittis. And those three main things that it talked about was speech restraint, mental restraint, and sensory restraint. All right, so today we're going to go a bit further and get into the Harmonizing, Pravritti, Discovering Niverty, page 33. 33 must be Illuminati. All right. Secure the bag. Peace, peace. Greetings. Welcome. Who loves orange soda? Welcome, welcome. Dog done left the jet. All right. Here we go. The two paths of life are Pravritti and Niverty. The path of Pravritti leads towards the world, and the path of Niverty leads towards transcendence. In the Pravritti path, you are engrossed and involved in the experience of the senses and the sense objects, and every action in life is performed under the sway of vrittis. Remember, we said vrittis were the fluctuations of mind, the modifications of mind, the disturbances of mind, right? You can think of the mind as a calm, still lake, and that is the mind's original state. However, and if you can even look at the clear, calm surface of the lake, and you can see the reflection of the sun and the clouds and the stars in the sky. But once it starts raining, once there's a disturbance in that lake, all those ripples will cause the surface to become unclear. You can't see the reflection clearly. You can't see anything. All you can see is the ripples. Well, that's what these vrittis are. They're the ripples and the disturbances of mind. So most people cannot see clearly because they are disturbed, right? They're going through some type of disturbance, whether it's a focus of fear, whether it's a focus of lust, whether it's a focus of lack, a focus of anxiety, etc., etc. And we went over the book Power versus Force, which gave us all these different levels of consciousness and explained exactly what they were and the symptoms of being stuck in those. So that's what the vrittis are. And he says, in the Pravritti path, you are engrossed and involved in the experience of the senses and the sense objects. And every action in life is performed under the sway of these vrittis, of these disturbances. There is lack of restraint and discipline, and everything is based on the whims of the mind. Right? So a mind that's disturbed lacks restraint and lacks discipline, obviously. And everything is based on the whims of the mind. If the whims are not satisfied, there is pain, unhappiness, and depression, right? Cesar, cheers. Ryan Van Zant, welcome. William Trent, got my headset ready. All right, you're a little bit early, but you will definitely be needing it soon. Since everyone living in society follows the Pravritti path, everyone, you need to understand how to inculcate discipline and restraint while walking this path. The basic requirement to be uplifted spiritually and internally for a person involved in this path is attainment of restraint and discipline, right? He says the basic requirement to be uplifted spiritually and internally for a person involved in this path is the attainment of restraint and discipline. Two important things, restraint and discipline. Remember reading in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali the other day, he said that the two main things that are required to control the vrittis, the two things he said was you needed to have constant practice and you needed to have non-attachment. He said in verse 12, these mental modifications are restrained by what? By consistent, constant practice and non-attachment. And what he's saying right here is the basic requirement to be uplifted spiritually and internally for a person involved in this path is attainment of restraint and discipline. These are the biggest accomplishments for a worldly person. The concept of restraint includes restraint of speech, restraint of mind, and restraint of the senses. Remember, we went over that last chapter. Greetings, Moby. Good to see you. Practicing restraint. So here we go. Acquiring truthfulness and pleasantness. In order to acquire restraint of speech, the two tools that are used are truthfulness and pleasantness. The speech, communication, and behavior of every individual must be truthful as well as pleasant. When there's truth and pleasantness, the speech is full of energy and purity and is used for your own upliftment as well as that of others. Words are waves of energy which affect the mind and emotion. Stray Panther, greetings, brother, greetings. Welcome, welcome. So he says here on page 34, words are waves of energy which affect the mind and emotions. If someone speaks words of praise, you feel happy. If someone speaks words of abuse, you are pained. The play of words brings about the experiences of pain and pleasure because words hold power, and truthfulness and pleasantness in speech enhance this power, right? So I said the play of words brings about the experiences of pain and pleasure because words hold power. Truthfulness and pleasantness in speech enhance this power. This is something that you learn if you study neurolinguistic programming, right? Falsity and unpleasantness, those are the opposites. Falsity and unpleasantness come into life when you are caught up in the web of tamasic and rajasic qualities. Remember, we learned about tamas and rajas, right? Tamas being a decay and stupidity and ignorance. Rajas being passion and agitation and just bouncing everywhere. So it said falsity and unpleasantness come into life when you are caught up in the web of tamasic and rajasic qualities. Making an attempt to acquire truthfulness and pleasantness is difficult initially, but these are the tools that empower your words, your speech, and allow you to acquire restraint of speech. So it's key to bring about truthfulness and pleasantness in everything that comes out of your mouth. That'll be good for not only yourself, but also everyone around you. So the next thing, we talked about tamas and rajas, but remember there's a third aspect. There's decay, there's agitation and passion, but in the middle there's sattva. So right here, this next part is talking about identifying sattva. The mind is a subtle and vast area of experience. To acquire restraint of mind, the first step is becoming aware of your strengths, weaknesses, ambitions, and needs. Remember, he said that before. Talked about how the strengths represent the sattvic aspect, the weaknesses represent the tamasic aspect, the ambitions represent the rajasic aspect, and then everybody has needs in life, such as food, shelter, and clothing, right? The strengths represent the positive or sattvic quality in life. Identification with positive qualities and strengths indicates an optimistic nature, a mind which is guided by hope and is creative and positive. It indicates a person who is open-minded and discriminative. In everyday life, the emergence of sattva is seen when you identify with positive qualities and strengths. It is always said in yoga that instead of worrying about the negative, the limiting, and the destructive, identify with that which is positive, constructive, and sattvic. Right? I'll read the line again. It is always said in yoga that instead of worrying about the negative, the limiting, and the destructive,
Identify with that which is positive, constructive, and sattvic. This will ultimately elevate the consciousness from the gross to the transcendental, because what you focus on expands, right? And if you're focused on worry, negative, the limitations, the destructive qualities of life, if that's what you're focused on all day long, then that's definitely what you're going to continue to cultivate. Cradle of humankind, greetings. And then he says you identify with what is positive, constructive, and sattvic. And of course, what you focus on expands. Regardless if you think it's good or bad, what you choose to focus all your energy on is what you're going to get more of. Period. Your own life will demonstrate that. But he says here, focusing on what is positive and constructive and sattvic, this will ultimately elevate the consciousness from gross to transcendental. And of course, another word for gross here is like dense and heavy, right? And of course, transcendental is what is beyond the five elements and the five senses. So, just as a quick recap, in case anyone either doesn't know or forgot, when we talk about Rajas, Sattva, and Tamas, we're talking about the three gunas. And the three gunas are essentially the three qualities that create the material realm, also known here as Prakriti. Prakriti is the entire totality of manifested existence. So that not only includes everything that you can taste, touch, hear, smell, and feel, but it also includes the subtle aspects of manifest reality, like thought and emotion. So Prakriti is the ancient Sanskrit term for the entirety of creation. And that includes all the levels, the dense levels and the subtle levels. Right? Now, Prakriti is composed of these three qualities: Rajas, Sattva, and Tamas. And you can see from the diagram that kind of indicates the type of expression that they represent. You guys may have heard that, God, God, that stands for generator, operator, destroyer. And that concept, as most spiritual concepts, originate here from this Vedic information. You can see that the Rajas, G for generation, Sattva, O for organization, Tamas, D for destruction, God. These are the three different qualities of the physical plane. And what we've seen is that Rajas, the creator, it represents agitation, selfishness, passionate, active, restless, forceful, lustful, controlling. This is the movement of energy here, right? The masculine aspect. After Rajas, we have Tamas, right? Tamas, also known as the destroyer or the transformer. And this mode of energy is decline, right? So this is the opposite. One is growth, Rajas is growth, Tamas is decline. That represents foolishness, anger, lazy, deluded, harmful, distorted, lying. It's destruction, essentially. So anything under the influence of a tamasic nature is leading more and more to density and gravity, decay, and death. And then anything that is under the Rajasic influence is extremely agitated. It's moving, it's moving, it's moving, and it is, being stimulated to the extreme. So what balances these, what harmonizes these, is the Sattvic principle, right? Sattva is in the center of this. It says there, Sattva, the maintainer, represents balance, peace. It's universal, it's harmonious, it's equilibrium, wise, it's refined, good, and truthful. So these are the three qualities that make up the entirety of the manifest realm. Everything comes up under the influences of these three gunas. They're called the gunas, Gunas. Now, it's everything contains all three, but the thing is, they're held in proportions. So most people are either extremely Rajasic, and then other people are extremely Tamasic. And this would represent laziness, depression, and just people that are generally don't have enough energy to move themselves to do anything. Likewise, on the opposite realm, people under the influence of Rajas, they're always busy, always active, always moving. There's always something going on. There is no peace. And then the very, very rare people who are under the influence of Sattva, because this is not mainstream, this is very rare. A person that's under the influence of Sattva is extremely balanced, peaceful, harmonious in life. That means they don't take more than they give. They leave things as they were or better than when they arrived, right? How many people can say that When you step into a place, you leave it better than what it was, or you leave it the same, not worse. But anyways, those are the three gunas, right? And this is very key and very central and very core to this whole philosophy here. You're going to hear these terms over and over and over again. So that's why I'm repeating it, just to make sure that you understand what this represents. Got it? Greetings, Aldiki. Lenny Alderdice, peace, peace. Veronica, welcome, welcome. Varez Beats, what's up, bro? Caesar, I think what you're referring to is sativa weed. But hey, it could be close, right? Let me say Saatva weed. I never heard of the Saatva weed. Then again, that's not really my field of expertise, so I could be wrong. Maybe there is a Saatva weed. Maybe one of you guys in the chat have smoked on that good Saatva. I don't know. Anyway, let's continue. So, identifying Saatva. All right, that's what we were reading about. And then what he said here is, what was it? Most people are under the influence of the rajas or the tamas, right? And a person who is sattvic indicates a person who's open-minded and discriminative. So in everyday life, the emergence of sattva is seen when you identify with the positive qualities and strengths, okay? It is always said in yoga that instead of worrying about the negative, the limiting, and the destructive, identify that with that which is positive, constructive, and sattvic. This will ultimately elevate the consciousness from the gross to the transcendental. Cultivation of strength is, therefore, enhancement of the sattvic nature, right? The harmonized, the middle, the balanced. Okay, so getting a grip on tamas. This is the next part. The next step is identifying weakness. So once we've identified the strength, that's the main thing. The next thing is to identify weakness. So it says here, getting a grip on tamas. The next step is identifying weakness, the limitations and restrictions which are self-imposed, or the possibilities that have not been recognized due to lack of maturity of the mind. So to recognize the weaknesses and limitations which are self-imposed, or the possibilities that have not been recognized due to the lack of maturity. So there's a lot of possibilities, opportunities, and options that you haven't seen yet due to a lack of maturity, right? That's where experience comes into play, and that's also where study comes into play. But the next step is to identify those. The limitations represent the tamasic qualities and nature. Remember, we talked about tamasic as being the decaying aspect. So limitations represent the tamasic qualities of nature. By identifying these limiting, restrictive, and weak conditions of life, you are actually identifying the tamasic areas of your life which inhibit or restrict your growth and progress and do not allow you to reach your goal and attain the peace and contentment that you desire. The reason for not being able to acquire positivity in life is only one. You have forgotten your capabilities due to the grip of tamas, and the weaknesses have become stronger. Therefore, identification of weaknesses is important. At the same time, cultivation of positive strengths is also necessary. Identifying and recognizing the limitations, restrictions, and weaknesses is important to understand the grip of tamas on your nature. But cultivating the right optimistic and positive qualities is the sadhana that one needs to practice, right? So far there's a two-step. He's going through all the gunas, right? As you can see, the next one he's going to talk about is rajas. But he says that you want to start with sattva and identify the strengths. Once you've identified your strengths, that's going to give you the ground to stand on. The next thing is to identify your weaknesses and your limitations. Identify those weaknesses and limitations that are self-imposed. Identify the weaknesses and limitations that are there because you lack the maturity, right? So identify the strengths, identify the weaknesses. The third step, he says here, realizing the force of rajas, right? Identifying your expectations, aspirations, and ambitions is necessary to realize the thrust of the rajasic quality in your life, ask yourself, in which direction is my rajasic nature taking me? Towards destruction or towards upliftment? Because check it out. Notice I didn't say good and evil or good and bad. It's not about good and bad. One is leading towards extreme density and one is leading towards agitation, right? So what he says here is you want to ask yourself, in which direction is my rajasic nature taking me? Towards destruction or towards upliftment? If the expectations, ambitions, and aspirations in life are not attainable, but there is an intense internal craving for them, you will end up in worry and descend into a space of depression and dejection. So check that out. If the expectations, ambitions, and aspirations in life are not attainable, that means if you have these goals and these dreams that are actually not realistic, but there's an intense internal craving for them, right? An intense internal craving for something that is not realistic. The bottom line is you'll end up in worry and descend into a space of depression and dejection. However, if an aspiration or an ambition is attainable, you will begin to connect with the environment, the world, and your own spirit. Many times, unattainable ambitions become the aim of life, and you are unable to complete the journey. If your ambitions are realistic, you can fulfill them and walk on. As for needs, they represent harmony of the gunas. They represent the harmony of this. And the basic needs of food, shelter, and clothes are common to all. Realization of the gunas and mental behavior takes place only in meditation, when you are able to reflect upon, witness, and analyze yourself, your expressions, needs, and aspirations. This is not the step-by-step meditation of pratyahara, dharana, and dhyana taught in yoga. So we're talking about something different than what we've spoken about before. Remember we talked about in dharana darshan, and this is the process of concentration and visualization, right? This is where you get those meditation techniques like you want to work on your chakras and you want to visualize the light of akasha, or even such a thing like the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, right? So these type of rituals would fall under the Indian category of dharana because it's concentration and it's focus. And of course, pratyahara is the process of sensory withdrawal. So you gradually do meditation to withdraw from your attachment of hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, etc. Excuse me, that's dhyana. That's dhyana. So he's saying that what he's talking about here, the previous sentence of realization of the gunas, mental behavior takes place only in meditation. He's saying that it's not talking about these types of meditation. It's a method of self-observation and self-analysis. It is a method to know yourself. Seeing the other side of the coin. The third form of restraint is sensory restraint. The senses are always craving for something pleasant, right? The senses are always running towards pleasure or running away from pain. He says the senses are always craving for something pleasant. The search of the senses is only for pleasure and happiness. The main function of the 5 karmendriyas, or the organs of action, and the 5 jnanendriyas. And basically, if you're uncertain of what those are, you can look into Tattva Shuddhi, of course, page 45. You should really have this printed out and put on your wall. But we talked about Prakriti, right? Prakriti, like I said, is the name of the totality of existence, and it's composed of those 3 gunas, right? Rajas, Tamas, and Saatva. Now, within the egg of Prakriti, you may have seen the mythology and symbology of like the egg of creation. Within this egg, because of the influence of the soul, because look, the soul is not on the same level as creation. It's outside of and it's separate from. But because of the influence of soul, Prakriti has created the mind, or we call this the Antakarana, which is the internal instrument that we use to process reality, right? Remember, we talked about that Antakarana with the Buddhi, which represents the higher self, the highest intellect, Ahamkara, which represents ego, Chitta, which represents mind and can also represent memory, and then Manas, which represents the body, mind, the five senses, right? Now, from that comes the 10 Indriyas. Now, the 10 Indriyas, they represent the 5 organs of action and the 5 organs of knowledge, right? So here we go right here. The 5 organs of action, the 5 organs of knowledge, those are the Jnanendriyas. All right, now this is dealing with your physical body. They break this stuff down to the very minute detail. But just to go real quick, the organs of knowledge are pretty much your ears and the perception of sound, your skin and the perception of touch, your eyes and the perception of form, the tongue and the perception of taste, and the nose and the perception of smell. These all line up with the 5 elements, okay? Of course, we know that smell lines up with earth, taste lines up with water, sight lines up with fire, touch lines up with air, and sound lines up with akasha. So those are the 5 organs of knowledge. Then there's the 5 organs of action, which also line up with the 5 senses. There's the organ of speech, the organ of grasping, the organ of movement, the organ for reproduction, and the organ for evacuation. Again, these all line up with the 5 elements and the 5 senses. But those are the Indriyas. Those are the Indriyas. And just to go back to this chart, those 10 Indriyas, the Karmendriyas of action and the Karmendriyas of knowledge, this is the body right here. This is the physical body, and this is the mind, right? These organs are contained within the mind, and the mind is contained within Prakriti, which is the totality of existence. Now, those are the Indriyas. So what did he say here about that? He talked about how the senses are always craving for something pleasant. The search of the senses is only for pleasure and happiness. The main function of the 5 Karmendriyas, organs of action, and the 5 Jnanendriyas, organs of knowledge, that's what we just talked about on the chart, is to provide a pleasant input to the mind. The main function of the 10 Indriyas is to provide a pleasant function to the mind. In this search for a pleasant input, the mind is often distracted from its journey to express its full potential, its actual goal. So the mind actually does have a mission, it has a goal, it has a journey. But the thing is, these 5 organs of action and knowledge, because they're always gathering data, right? The mind becomes attached to that gathering process, and now we want pleasure all the time for these senses, because they're always seeking pleasure. So instead of focusing on your goal, instead of focusing on realizing your potential, instead of focusing on what the mind is actually here to do, we get carried away by chasing the pleasure of the senses. We want to smell something good, taste something good, feel something good, hear something good, and look at something good. We get attached to that. And because those senses can never be satisfied, we suffer because we're always chasing something that doesn't exist. We're always chasing a pleasure that is not permanent. Let's continue. And the actual goal of the mind is to express its full potential. But that goal is hampered, that goal is restricted, that goal is limited because we're chasing pleasure all the time. And that's where the challenge comes in. Prakriti. Vitamin J says, would Sattvic, or however you spell it, be like the middle path on the tree of life? Absolutely. Whenever you see a series of 3s, you're going to see this representation. Whenever you see a series of 3s, this is what you're looking at. This is what the trident represents in the symbology of these Vedic entities. If they're holding a trident, that means that they have mastery over the manifest dimension, right? This is the manifest dimension. Everything that is under the influence of Rajas, Sattva, and Tamas. Anything that's under the influence of these 3, they are within the realm of the manifest dimension. So when you see one of the Vedic gods, like, you might see, for example, Prana Shakti, she's holding a trident. That means that she has mastery over the material plane. She's not under the influence of these things. She's the one that influences them. So, yeah, when you look at the tree of life, you can break it down into 3 pillars here. So the middle path would represent the sattvic path. Now, if that's the case, then the other 2 paths represent the other 2 qualities, right? Tamas, Rajas. Basically, you turn it sideways like this, and you would see the paths. Okay, let's continue. Shout out to the cows. Yes, shout out to the cow. Oh yeah, I get it, because the cows are holy. Chickens clutch too. All right, let's continue. According to yoga, cultivation of an opposite thought, pratipaksha bhavana, right? Cultivation of an opposite thought is important to restrain the senses. Cultivation of an opposite thought is important to restrain the senses. Remember, we just talked about how the senses are always going to be chasing pleasure. But he says that according to yoga, cultivation of an opposite thought is important to restrain the senses. If the eyes are attracted to something, then create a thought. This is nice, but the opposite is also nice. See how that works? Now, this was also, because all of these occult books draw their information from this same Vedic information here, you'll see similarities if you know how to look for them. And in some of the chaos magic books, especially Libernal and Psychonaut, that's one of the first things where it talks about you want to practice thinking and feeling the opposite of the things you find yourself triggered by and attached to. And it would only make sense if that's how you're going to start controlling your mind. But he says here, if the eyes are attracted to something, then create a thought. This is nice, but the opposite is also nice. If the eyes are craving beauty, the mind should also accept the ugly. In this way, the sensory attractions have to be balanced by cultivating awareness of the opposite and not just identifying with that which is pleasurable and offers fleeting joy. The ability to realize both the good and the bad must be developed because they are 2 sides of the same coin. When one side is being seen, the other side is waiting to be turned over. Once the side turns, what you are seeing goes down and what you have not seen comes up. Therefore, awareness of both the positive and the negative has to be achieved to attain Indriya Sanyam, or mastery of these Indriyas. Make sense? The next step, personal system of discipline. Restraint is one aspect of attaining harmony in the path of Pravritti, and the other aspect is discipline, restraint and discipline. Greetings, Glocky. Glocky asks, how do I control my thoughts? Well, this is it right here. This whole book is it right here. You want to learn how to attain discipline. And that begins with identifying those thoughts. And once you identify those thoughts, you want to practice not being intensely affected by those thoughts. Thoughts come and go, but that doesn't mean you have to be attached to them. So it really starts with sitting down and becoming aware and analyzing what's going on in your head. So restraint is one aspect of attaining harmony in the path of Pravritti. The other aspect is discipline. Restraint and discipline. Discipline must be practiced with respect to body, mind, diet, and sleep to acquire physical, mental, and emotional health. In particular, there has to be a proper structure and a system to sleep and diet. If you are able to manage these 2, all imbalances of life will disappear. And the 2 he's talking about is restraint and discipline. All right. So it says if you're able to manage restraint and discipline, all imbalances of life will disappear. Create a system and timing for when you sleep, when you wake up, what you eat, when you eat, and why you eat. All right, because we're talking about restraint and discipline. And in this aspect, he's talking about restraint and discipline in your food. So you create a system and timing for when you sleep, when you wake up, what you eat, when you eat, and why you eat. Such an approach, combined with practices that enhance physical and psychological well-being and health, will bring discipline into your daily life. The method which the yogis discovered for attaining discipline is yoga. With the help of yoga, one can attain holistic well-being. The imbalances of the body are removed and physical health is acquired. The imbalances of the body are removed and physical health is acquired. The tensions of the mind are removed and mental peace is attained. The agitation of the emotions is quieted and the emotions are purified. The dissipation of the pranas is checked and they are focused in one point. Notice how all this begins with removing the things that are causing the problem. And once the problem is removed, harmony, sattva, balance is allowed to flow in. So again, the imbalances of the body are removed and physical health is acquired. The tensions of the mind are removed and mental peace is acquired. The agitation of the emotions is quieted and the emotions are purified. The dissipation of the pranas is checked and they are focused on one point. So right there, he just talked about the body, he talked about the mind, he talked about the emotions, and he talked about prana, the different levels of self, right? The imbalances of the body are removed and physical health is now acquired. The tensions of the mind are removed and mental peace is attained. The agitation of the emotions is quieted and the emotions are purified. The dissipation of the pranas is checked and they are focused in one point. You want your prana focused in one point, not scattered all over the place. In this way, when the body, mind, emotions, and pranas are controlled with the help of a method, the imbalances and diseases in all these areas are removed automatically and one attains optimum health. When the body, mind, emotions, and prana are controlled with the help of a method, the imbalances and diseases in all these areas are removed automatically and one attains optimum health. So now in this next part, he talks about the 3 mantras, right? So check this out. Apart from yoga practices, certain other sadhanas are also essential for developing positivity of mind. Upon waking up in the morning, practice the 3 mantras. Mahamrityunjaya mantra 11 times, Gayatri mantra 11 times, and the 32 names of Durga 3 times. If you guys have watched my channel for a while, then you have heard at least the first 2 several times. Mahamrityunjaya mantra, that's the main one that I listen to. And then there's also the Gayatri mantra, which is also extremely popular. And then, of course, there are the 32 names of Durga. So we see this number 32. Does that look familiar to anybody here in the chat? Framestar Films, I know you know. But does anybody else see this number 32 and relate it to anything else that might be occult related? While I wait to see if anyone has an answer, if you are interested in a book on those mantras, this is a good one by Om Swami. It's called The Hidden Power of the Gayatri Mantra. It'll tell you everything that you want to know about that particular mantra. You don't have to read this, but it's good if you want to. The best thing that I would recommend doing is actually just going to YouTube, typing this in, Gayatri Mantra, memorizing it. It's not that hard. It's 4 lines, and then reciting it as much as humanly possible. Another one is the Ancient Science of Mantras, and it covers a few different ones, and it has a lot more detail if that's something that you're interested in. Again, you don't have to get these books in order to learn about mantras, but it is good supplemental information if you feel drawn to that. As a matter of fact, in March, we're going to move into this book here, Mantra and Yantra, and this is going to give some real good information on it. But like I said, those other ones are helpful if you wanted to look into that. The number 32, is related to, Glocky says 32 shots in the glizzy banana clips. That can work. But basically, Tree of Life, where we've got the 10 spheres of the Sephiroth and the 22 paths. So altogether, that makes 32. "32 shots in the glizzy banana clips." Now I know how many are in the glizzy banana clips. See, I didn't know that. I learned something today. All right, so upon waking up in the morning, practice the 3 mantras, Mahamrityunjaya mantra 11 times, Gayatri mantra 11 times, and the 32 names of Durga 3 times. All right? Those are very popular. You can find so many different versions on YouTube. Like, it's not even secret or difficult. And I've given a link many times in the chat to my favorite versions of these mantras. And if you need them again, I can definitely, of course, supply them. You'd have to ask, though. Practicing these 3 mantras creates positive willpower in the mind. They must be practiced immediately upon waking up before you're fully conscious. Many people say that in order to practice any form of concentration, meditation, mantra, or any other spiritual practice, one should be totally fresh, awake, and alert, and first have a bath. Chanting of mantras is the only exception. Do them before you are fully conscious and up and active. So there's a key there that he's given. Do these mantras immediately as you wake up. And that might be difficult at first, but gradually work yourself up to it. It is very much possible. Very much possible. Okay. Mantras need to access the unconscious and subconscious mind. Mantras need to access the unconscious and subconscious mind. You might want to highlight that if you have the physical copy, because that's what they do. There's an aspect of it that you do break down and understand, but ultimately, just like it says here, it's not about understanding what it's saying. He says that mantras need to access the unconscious and the subconscious mind. When you wake up in the morning, you are not fully conscious, nor are you asleep. You are in that in-between state of subconscious awareness. A lot has been said about the power of the subconscious mind. Whatever thought enters this state of mind will take the form of a sankalpa, resolve, and bring about change in your life, in your mentality, perceptions, attitude, and behavior. Yoga recognizes this power of positive transformation. Therefore, it is advised that as soon as you wake up, before you even put your foot down the bed, sit down for a few minutes with eyes closed. It is no problem if you're half asleep. That is the right state. In that state of semi-wakefulness and semi-sleep, make a sankalpa, right? A determination that you're going to do it, resolve. Make a sankalpa for physical health and well-being, and chant the Mahamrityunjaya mantra 11 times. When you finish it, make a sankalpa for cultivation of wisdom, creativity, and positivity in life, and chant the Gayatri mantra 11 times. After completing the Gayatri mantra, again make a sankalpa to be free from all distresses of life, whether external or internal, social or personal. Make a sankalpa, I shall be free from every kind of distress in life. And chant the 32 names of Durga, the cosmic Shakti. That is the end of the mantra practice in the morning. Now look, that may sound like a lot, but it's only 3 mantras. It's only 3 mantras, and those are the 3 most, well, 2 of them are the most popular mantra, probably, besides Om Namah Shivaya. So, Mahamrityunjaya mantra, Gayatri mantra, and the 32 names of Durga. All right? If anybody doesn't have it, let me know. I can type it in the chat, or maybe someone else can type those 3 in the chat. But they're very easy, and just take a few minutes to memorize it. I didn't memorize it. Well, if you want to, you can memorize it in a day, right? I did. You can just sit down. What I usually do, because they're more than just 3 words, right? They're 4 lines of mantra. And the way that I memorized them is I'd listen to it over and over, get the sound right, and I'd try to learn it by ear. I'd like pick out the certain words that I could say. And then the next step is I would write it out phonetically, basically. I wouldn't write it out how it's supposed to be spelled. I'd write it out how I'd say it, right? Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandim Pushti Vardhanam. Like, I'd write it out how it sounds. And then I'd listen to it and I'd read it the way that I wrote it. And I'd memorize it that way. And I'd break it down 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, 4 line. And then once I did it that way, then I would write it the way that it's supposed to be spelled. And then I'd basically just repeat it. And eventually, if you do it slow like that, and don't restart it, just let it play over and over and just catch it each time. And eventually you'll memorize it. It won't take long if you commit to it. All right. So those are the 3. I just put them in the chat there. You can check them out. Copy and paste, screenshot it. But like I said, I would definitely learn those. There's a million different versions, so just listen through until you find one that you really like. That's what I did. I just found one. I don't really like the bubbly, happy, singy ones. I like the ones that are kind of dark and occulty. So the ones that I got sound kind of serious, and I like those. But if you keep listening, you'll find one that you like. And again, like I said, if anybody wants the ones that I listen to exactly, type in the comments, not the chat here, because there's a chat going right now, not the chat. Type in the comments of the video so I can see it later. And then I can respond to you in the comments when the video's over. All right? So I just put those in the chat. All right, so let's continue. So just to go back just a little bit more, he says it is advised that as soon as you wake up, before you even put your foot down the bed, sit for a few minutes with your eyes closed. It's no problem if you're half asleep. That's the right state. In this state of semi-wakefulness and semi-sleep, make a sankalpa for physical health and well-being, right? For physical health and well-being, chant the Mahamrityunjaya mantra 11 times. When you finish it, make a sankalpa for cultivation of wisdom, creativity, and positivity in life. That's going to be for the Gayatri mantra 11 times. Then after you complete the Gayatri mantra, make a sankalpa to be free from all the distresses of life, whether external or internal, social or personal. Make a sankalpa, I shall be free from every kind of distress in life. And then chant the 32 names of Durga, the cosmic Shakti. That is the end of the mantra practice in the morning. So that's for the mantra. All right. So the Mahamrityunjaya for health and well-being, Gayatri mantra for creativity, wisdom, and positivity, and the 32 names of Durga for, the different type of distresses in life. Okay. All right. To practice the 3 mantras will take about 7 to 10 minutes at most, but it is an investment worth making to ensure that the strength, positivity, and creativity of the mind are maintained. Normally, when you wake up, the first thing you do is reach out for the newspaper or turn on the television. These days, the first thing you do is reach for your phone and, go to whatever app drug of choice. This makes sure that restlessness takes root and negative thoughts start to form. It makes sure that negative thoughts start to form. As to what you read or what you see this time influences the subconscious mind. Check that out. How many of us, the first thing we do when we wake up is grab the phone? Like, some people even sleep with the phone next to them. So we just talked about how when you first wake up, you're still kind of in that semi-awake, semi-asleep state. And that state has very much open access to the subconscious mind and the unconscious mind, because you're just now transitioning out of it. Right? There's an actual name for that vibratory state. So imagine when you're in that state, the first thing you do is, reach for your Facebook and start looking at the drama. Reach for Instagram and start looking at the drama, right? Veronica says, I am guilty. I'm guilty too. We've all done it. But, you want to come into a consistent practice of not doing that because, just a gentle reminder, that's a point in time where your mind is very open, where the subconscious is very open. I don't know about you, but the first thing I want to see is definitely not some drama from social media. That's why one of the first thing I do is, I try to wake up as soon as I can and go out for a walk of gratitude because that's what I want to start my day with and implant into my subconscious mind. Gerald Sombright says, what if you use your phone to write down your dreams? You can do that as long as you have the discipline to not get on those other apps first and foremost. If you can open your phone, or maybe when you go to sleep, have that app open so that when you cut it on, that's the first thing you see, and try not to look at those notifications. If you have the discipline, you can do that. But me being kind of old school, I still prefer to just use a notebook. That way I can avoid that altogether. Because, let's keep it real. After you write the dreams, it's extremely easy to flip over to that next app. And the next thing you know, an hour goes by or whatever. It's time for you to go to work or go to school. Caesar says AI will know dreams. Yeah, maybe. And I think a lot of people are scared of that because a lot of people are scared of everything, but what does that have to do with anything? And I'm not talking down on you. I'm just saying I was thinking about that recently. A lot of people are talking about that little interview where Elon Musk is like, yeah, eventually the chip will be able to record dreams. And that might be true. I don't get what people are so afraid of. Like most people on this planet don't have anything so special in their heads that they'll be so afraid of being recorded. I'm just saying. I guess maybe the invasion of privacy aspect would be what people are afraid of, but nobody's walking around with top secret information that. Anyways, let's refer back to the chapter of Ladder of Lights where they talked about the sphere of Chesed and the sphere of Gibera and the masses. Let's continue. Okay, so normally when you wake up, the first thing you do is reach out for the newspaper or turn on the television. This makes sure that restlessness takes root and negative thoughts start to form, as what you read or see in this time influences the subconscious mind. So again, right there when you first wake up, you're still in between that awake and that sleep state. It's not such a good idea to crack open your phone and start looking at all that drama first thing in the morning. It is necessary that at this hour you connect with your inherent potential, which is possible with the chanting of these three mantras. The positive awareness which you evoke in yourself in the morning will guide your activities during the day. That's important. That's why we're doing this. Naturally natured, peace. Good evening. Welcome. Glocky asks, how long does it take to fix the habit? How do I go about trusting the unconscious mind? It'd be better to not focus on the time, but focus on just being consistent every single day and every single moment. Instead of looking at the big scale, squeeze it down to the moment that you're in and just focus on, like they say in AA, one step at a time. That's going to be the best way. And how to trust your unconscious mind? You want to start small. You want to start small and have evidence for yourself. Peace, Cosmic Chlorophyll. Welcome, welcome. I see you finally got out of class. And now you're back in class. All right. It is necessary that at this hour you connect with your inherent potential, which is possible with the chanting of the three mantras. This positive awareness which you evoke in yourself in the morning will guide your activities during the day. It will guide your mental behavior during the day and not allow the mind to be sucked into the dark places which one confronts in times of frustration, anxiety, dejection, and different mood swings. Therefore, in the system of discipline, The first method is a short practice of mantras to maintain mental positivity, harmony, and balance during the day. So that's why it's a good idea to start with these mantras first thing when you wake up. It's not a heavy load, just something small. And like I said, those 3 mantras are like the most popular ones. You can easily find them on YouTube. And we started this maybe a year ago in the group, on the online, YouTube group. And if you ask people, they can certainly tell you about their experiences and the things that have changed for them, etc. All right, so the next thing that he recommends after mantras, he recommends asana and pranayama, which are the postures and the breathing. And he says, for physical well-being, choose a few asanas and pranayamas. The tradition speaks of 84,000 asanas. Basically, those are the different yoga poses. Obviously, you don't have to memorize all of them. But just like Universal Mind said in the chat a few minutes ago, he says first thing to do after waking up, as per a Hindu from India, is do yoga, Surya Namaskar. So that would count over here. As a matter of fact, I have that highlighted in this point. So yeah, you're exactly right, Universal Mind. Let's continue. Out of these 84,000 yoga poses, out of these 84 are important. Out of these 84, 5 are important for a normal person. All right? For a normal person suffering from a debilitating condition, depending on what the condition is, one has to pick a different combination of asanas and pranayamas and other allied supportive techniques. For a normal, healthy person who wants to maintain the well-being, health, and stamina of the body, only 5 practices are important to ensure that the pranas are flowing properly throughout the body. They are Tadasana, Tiryaka Tadasana, Kati Chakrasana, Surya Namaskara, and Sarvangasana. So those are the 5 asanas that he recommends. If you guys can see, just take a screenshot there as I have highlighted those 5 asanas. And there is a really popular book that you can easily find on Amazon, and it's called Asanas. And it's like this little thick book of probably these 84 yoga poses that he's talking about. And they've got a picture of the dude demonstrating them. If you want to get that, that's certainly a book that you can get to see exactly what he's talking about. I would grab it and flip to the page, but that might take some time. Maybe after we finish this chapter, if you guys want to see that, I could go pull that out, but it's downstairs. Yeah, chlorophyll's good. All right, so Tadasana, Tiryaka Tadasana, Kati Chakrasana, Surya Namaskara, and Sarvangasana. There is no need to practice any other yoga posture beyond these 5. If you do them regularly, you will never suffer from any physical problems, illness, disease, or impairment in the performance of the internal body systems. These asanas will ensure that the internal systems are maintained properly and the body remains supple and energetic. In addition, 2 pranayamas must be practiced. Okay, so 2 breathing exercises, 2 pranayamas must be practiced. Nadi Shodhana and Brahmari. All right, these are also 2 very popular things that you can easily find demonstration of on the internet. Nadi Shodhana balances the 2 brain hemispheres. There are 2 hemispheres of the brain, the left and the right. In the right hemisphere, there is nothing left. And in the left hemisphere, there is nothing right. Think about that. In the right hemisphere, there's nothing left. In the left hemisphere, there's nothing right. Damn. It's pretty deep when you think about it. Nadi Shodhana Pranayama balances the 2 and removes nervous tension. Brahmari regulates the functions of the endocrine system. When the functions of the glandular systems are regulated and the brain is charged with oxygen and prana Shakti, and its 2 hemispheres are working in coordination, then the efficiency of the brain and mind increases manifold. Interesting. Thus, 5 asanas and 2 pranayamas are necessary for creating a system of physical discipline, while the 3 mantras are necessary for a system of mental discipline. And I'll admit, that's something that I have not been doing, but I am definitely starting. Oh my. That's a strange sound you're making, puppy dog. Alright, so let's continue. Yoga Nidra, the next part. Oh. Whenever you feel tired during the day, do a short practice of Yoga Nidra. At any time when the body, muscles, mind, and brain feel tired, Yoga Nidra will revive you. This is removed from the body and mind, the pranas are activated and you feel energized once again. Next is bedtime meditation. Meditation is necessary to de-stress at night. If you are able to de-stress yourself before going to sleep, in the course of time, your whole personality will change, as the biggest problem in life is stress. Check that gym out. He says meditation is necessary to de-stress at night. If you are able to de-stress yourself before going to sleep, in the course of time, your whole personality will change, as the biggest problem in life is stress. Right? Interesting. Everyone suffers from stress, and you are not able to manage it. Stress is always accumulated, and you are unable to release the accumulated stress. Meditation can be used as a tool to de-stress before going to sleep at night. This will allow the mind to become relaxed and be at peace with itself. It will not be influenced by the intense vrittis. The mind identifies with vrittis only at times of stress. So check that out. We're still doing the work to eliminate the vrittis, but the problem with the vrittis isn't necessarily your day-to-day mind wandering. It's when you get into times of stress that these vrittis kick in. I gave the story about my friend who, her sister's baby daddy came over and they got into an actual altercation, a fight, right? Now, the friend of mine, she began to have a panic attack and break down. Like nothing was happening to her specifically, but because of seeing that abuse, of seeing that, a vritti was activated, and I imagine it comes from her childhood, or maybe she's going through some kind of thing. I don't know, but she couldn't really manage herself. She's down on her knees crying and freaking out over what's going on. That's a vritti coming up in a time of stress. Now, we all deal with that. It doesn't have to be you having a panic attack or anxiety, but oftentimes that's what most people are dealing with these days, right? And we go to the doctor, the psychiatrist, and we try to get drugs for it, but that drugs are not going to erase a vritti. If anything, it's just going to numb you down so you don't freak out as much. But what's going on inside in your mind is still happening. So whether it's anger, whether it's depression, matter of fact, we can just refer back to Power versus Force and look on this chart. I think it's time I memorized the page number, page 90, 91, and look at these major vrittis, right? Whether it's shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, right? Fear is a huge one. Many people, when a time of stress kicks in, they go back to whatever one of these vrittis is strongest. Fear, right? Desire, grief, apathy, guilt. And then there are others. Once you start releasing these vrittis, you start coming up with these other ones: willingness, acceptance, reason, love. Imagine in a time of stress, your vritti is love. How would you behave? How would you behave when the heat is turned on and you're somebody who your main state is love or reason or joy, and not pride, anger, desire, grief? You see what I'm saying? If you've ever been near somebody who, when something serious went down, that's when you really tell who a person is. I've been in certain altercations, and I remember the first time, seeing the dude next to me who I thought was somebody I could I don't know, I guess trust or be safe around. And this dude just froze. He didn't do anything. He just froze there, frozen solid. And that's when I first realized everybody's not like me. Some people don't know how to handle stress. Some people, you know what I'm saying? Like, everyone is going to revert back to their basic vritti under a time of heavy stress. So just be aware of that. Just be aware of that. Court Singh says it's about to be on site with these vrittis, cuz, right? Vritti's the ops, for real, for real. I agree. Totally. All right, so that's why it's so important to manage these vrittis. Imagine having a mind that is free of disturbance. It doesn't matter what's going on in the world, you will always be at peace. Most people can't even imagine that. But you can do it. You can certainly do it, especially if you start taking some of these suggestions seriously. Cosmic Chlorophyll says, is laziness a vritti? Absolutely. Laziness is a central manifestation of tamas. Tamas is laziness. So yeah, that is a vritti. And many of those that I showed on that chart in power versus force, a lot of those lower emotional states that people are locked into, those are all having a root of tamas. And notice what it says here. Tamas. Lazy. So yeah, you're exactly right. Good. Repetition is the father of learning. That's why I keep showing these cards. Okay. So, like he just said here, the mind identifies with vrittis only at times of stress. In other words, in a time of stress, whatever that vritti is, you become it. You think that that is you. You become fear incarnate. You become anxiety. You become anger. You become depression, worthlessness, right? You become those feelings in times of stress. You lose who you are and you identify with them. So whenever you're feeling that way, understand that. That's what's going on. When there is no stress, when you are totally relaxed, then the mind has the ability to stand back and look at all the vrittis and its involvement with the world of senses and sense objectively. Again, the mind identifies with vrittis only at times of stress. When there is no stress, when you are totally relaxed, the mind has the ability to stand back and look at all the vrittis and its involvement with the world of senses and sense objects objectively. I've heard before that if you are feeling upset, if you are feeling depressed, if you are feeling overwhelmed by emotions, the first thing you want to do is kind of step outside yourself and see that those emotions are going on within you. In other words, there's a difference from being wrapped up in the emotion and seeing that the emotion is happening. Those are two different positions. In one, you're in it, you're in the thick of it, you're engrossed in it, like he would say. But when you're able to step out and look at it objectively, like he said here, you can only do that with a steady, still mind. Stray Panther 79 asks, what are those cards called? I will show you. Do you see? Cool. All right, so yeah, bedtime meditation, that's what he's talking about here. You're very welcome. He says the ability to, when your mind has no stress, you're totally relaxed, the mind has the ability to stand back and look at all the vrittis and its involvement with the world of senses and sense objects objectively. Therefore, meditation should be practiced at night before going to sleep, even if for 5 minutes. For these 5 minutes, separate yourself from the world. Say to yourself, this is important, right? You can just do this for 5 minutes just before you go to sleep, right? Check this out. I am free from the influences of the world. I am not the mind. nor the experiences of pain and pleasure connected with the mind. I am not the body, nor the experiences of pain and pleasure associated with the body. I am the conscious spirit. You see that? Invoking this thought for 5 minutes, practice any method of meditation. One mala of mantra, thought observation, or mind observation, any system of pratyahara or dharana can be adopted. Then go to sleep. So, in other words, it doesn't really matter which one of these you do. The main thing is to sit down and practice vairagya or non attachment. And remember what we said from the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, the two ways that you're going to manage these vrittis. That was verse 112, I believe. Let's see. Verse 112. Yep. Remember what he says here. The mental modifications. What are mental modifications? They are the vrittis, right? He says the mental modifications are restrained by practice and non-attachment, right? So what he's talking about here is non-attachment just before bed. He's talking about restraining these vrittis. So just before bed, you want to sit down and say, I am free from the influences of the world. I am not the mind. I'm not the experiences of pain and pleasure connected with the mind. I'm not the body, and I'm not the experiences of pain and pleasure associated with the body. What am I? I am conscious spirit. Then he says, invoking this thought for 5 minutes, focus on that energy for 5 minutes. Then you can practice one mala of mantra. You can observe your thoughts, right? Vipassana. You can do the body scan, mind observation. You can do pratyahara, which is sensory withdrawal. You can go within as deep as possible. Dharana, you can focus on something. And then go to sleep. That's easy. That's simple. That's simple. Glocky says, will meditating for 7 hours help? So it doesn't matter how long you do it. What matters is what you're doing during this time. So like what I read here in this portion, it's important for on what you're doing, right? So just like what he said here, the easy thing that you can do is you can sit down for 5 minutes and focus on this thought, right? I am free from the influences of the world. I am not the mind. I am not the body. I'm not the mind. I'm not the experiences of pain and pleasure connected with the mind. I'm not the body, and I'm not the experiences of pain and pleasure connected with the body. Focus on that thought for just like 5 minutes. I am the conscious spirit. And while you're doing that, you can do one of those mantras. You can just look at the mind. Just sit there and analyze. Just watch the mind. So it doesn't matter if it's 7 hours or 7 minutes. The point is, do it consistently. Because even what Patanjali said in the Yoga Sutras, and I believe that this was verse number 114. Yeah, number 114. He says, practice becomes firmly grounded when well attended to for a long time without break and in all earnestness. So it's more about consistency than it is about doing it real hard one time. You just want to adopt a routine time after time. Adopt a routine. Greetings, Connor Black. Connor says, I like this chapter because he breaks down how to make a yoga a holistic lifestyle. Makes it easy to implement. Absolutely. Easy. Moby says, I'll do this tonight. Yeah, and for myself, looking back over this, I do see that when I bought this book a year ago in January, I started to adopt what he was talking about here, but I didn't adopt everything. I am going to start doing the physical yoga now, and I'm going to start doing this every single night before I go to bed. I mean, I usually meditate, but it's usually kind of general. I do other things, but I'm going to focus on what he's talking about specifically in this book. I'm going to start that this year, tonight. So yeah, me too. We'll be on the same page. And maybe because we're all starting this at the same time, it might stick. It might be a little bit stronger because there's a group effort. Interesting. Let's continue. Get this book if you don't have it, guys. Valuable information. And just like what Connor said, this chapter breaks down how to make yoga a holistic lifestyle. All right. So in this way, you can create a structure. That's what he's telling you to do, to create a structure for yourself. So you don't have to join any group if that's not what you want to do. You don't have to sign up for nothing if that's not what you want to do. Just do what he's saying in this book. And this is extremely basic. Anybody can do it, right? Anybody can do it. That's why I decided to start with this book, because anybody can do it. So, like he says, in this way, this is how you create structure. This is how you create a system. This is how you create discipline to release the stresses and tensions of the mind through meditation. Ensure that the pranas and the energies of the bodies are flowing properly with the practice of asanas and pranayamas, and that the mind remains centered, focused, and positive with the chanting of the mantras. Excellent work. This is acquisition of personal discipline. When you do this, when you start this process, this is going to be a form of personal discipline. Restraint and discipline, he says, is what it takes to transcend these vrittis. And like I said, I have had this book for a year, and I started doing these disciplines a year ago, and I do see the growth that it had on my life. So now, a year later, I'm happy to see what's going to happen when I improve and increase what I've been doing. Because that's what happens with these sciences. You're not going to learn something new. Once you get to like a higher level than where you are, you kind of stop learning new stuff and you start circling over the things that you've already learned. And that's wonderful, because now you have an opportunity to go deeper and go deeper, right? Like I mentioned, I've already read this book. I've already studied this book. I've already studied all these books that we're doing. But the thing is, going back over them now with more experience, you're going to see more. Just like what he said here about Thomas and your self-limitation, right? What did he say? He said that you're going to realize limitations and restrictions which are self-imposed or possibilities that have not been recognized due to lack of maturity. So when you go back around and you go back over the subjects that you already learned, you're going to come back with more maturity. And now you're going to see things that you missed because you had a lack of maturity the first time around. So don't ever complain that, oh, I keep learning the same stuff, or it's always the same subjects. Don't complain about that, because you didn't get it deeply the first time. You just got the surface level. You just learned the name of it, right? You just learned what it was. Everyone's like, oh, I already learned chakras. I already know that. I guarantee you don't know that. You know the names of them, but that's all you know. There's a whole lifetime worth of knowledge about chakras. There's a lifetime of knowledge about tarot. There's lifetimes worth of knowledge about the Kabbalah. And there's damn sure lifetimes, generations worth of knowledge about this Vedic information. That's why it's so important to not sit down and be like, oh, I know it, I got it all. No, always learning about it. There's so much depth to these topics. And the reflection of this knowledge is your life and how you change and how you evolve with it. So this is the acquisition of personal discipline. The next one, dietary regulation. External discipline constitutes dietary discipline and sleep discipline. Psychologists, psychiatrists, and psychoanalysts say that when there is some kind of mental, psychological, or emotional problem which you are unable to work out, then the craving for food enhances and you consume more. Eating is not a problem. The after effect of not eating properly is the bigger problem. The physical system is controlled and regulated by the flow of hormones and other chemicals. When you eat, the digestive juices that are released do not differentiate between the different quantities of food you eat. You hear that? When you eat, the digestive juices that are released do not differentiate between the different quantities of food that you eat. Whether you eat a complete meal or a single peanut, the quantity of digestive juices released will always be the same. Every time that you eat, you are flushing your system with hormones and chemicals, which can create problems when not eliminated. Bile is a result of this condition. The bilious nature of the body is a result of hormonal secretions which are not eliminated properly. Interesting. Every single time you put something in your mouth and swallow it, that triggers your body to release hormones and digestive juices, and it releases the same amount of hormones and digestive juices whether you eat a big-ass turkey dinner or just a granola bar. So that should tell you how important it is to manage the frequency of how often you eat. Because imagine if you're snacking every couple of minutes, You're flooding your body with hormones and digestive juices. And what do you think those digestive acids are doing sitting in your stomach 24/7? That sucks, right? And because our kitchens are full, it's so easy to go in there and just grab something. Just snack. Always snacking, 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 snacking. You're flooding your body in your system with hormones and chemicals, and you're flooding your stomach with digestive juices. Damn, son. Where'd you find this? Very interesting. When I first read this, that very same day, I made it a point to stop snacking all the time. Because, I mean, I don't know about you, but just for me, thinking about having that going on the whole time, that don't even sound healthy. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, just something to think about. Just something to think about. That creates a bileless body, he says. The bileless nature of the body is a result of hormonal secretions which are not eliminated properly. I suggest you go research that and see for yourself, right? Go research that and see if that's what actually happens. Yoga, as well as Ayurveda, says that if you are able to regulate the timing of your meals, the body will create a system for itself where the digestive juices will flow out at a specific time and clear the system. Therefore, whether you eat 3 times a day or 5 times a day does not matter as long as you maintain a regular timing. And Glocky, that's like what I said with the meditation, and that goes for everything. It doesn't matter how much time you do it. What matters is the consistency and the intensity of your consistency. So he says that yoga and Ayurveda says that if you're able to regulate the timing of your meals, the body will create a system for itself where the digestive juices will flow out at a specific time and clear the system. Therefore, whether you eat 3 times a day or 5 times a day does not matter as long as you maintain a regular timing. Gerald Sombright says, yeah, I love to snack, but I guess it's time to cut the crap. Literally. In the ashram, we eat 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, with a bit of tea thrown in for the glucose high. People are not used to this routine, so they are uncomfortable with it. However, in the long run, this is one of the best systems that can be adopted to improve the quality of one's life and health. Regular sleep pattern. Similarly, to have a regular sleep pattern is important. There can be exceptions, but generally, try to sleep and wake up at specific times. Too much sleep or sleep deprivation are both bad for the brain and mind. When you are able to regulate your sleep pattern, the brain and mind will be charged with the right power, Shakti, quality, and guna. Straight Panther says, so he's referring to intermediate fasting. Yeah, pretty much. That's what it sounds like. Moby says, also, we should also stop eating 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. I've been doing that lately and feel better. Yeah, that's another good idea. It's another good idea. Because the body's doing its own thing, right? And that's fine, but we also have to recognize the part that we play in the body doing its own thing. Like he said, every time we put that food in our body, it's going to trigger a process. So being aware of that, we can manage how often and how frequently we trigger that process. And that's good advice to not eat 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. Lavniv Vision, peace. Okay. If you try and are able to cultivate restraint and discipline in the path of Pravritti, the path of enjoyment of the senses and sense objects, that will become your sadhana and attainment. You'll be able to live the Pravritti path in a better and happier manner without feeling frustrated, dejected, or depressed. You'll be able to live your life with optimism and with a smile. So look, if you cultivate restraint and discipline, if you focus on the things that he's talking about here, you'll be able to live in the world with regular people and not be swept away by the nonsense. And you can still be working on your spiritual growth because the thing that you're doing differently now is you have discipline over your body and you have a system to follow so that you're not hurting yourself anymore. You're now helping yourself. You're now allowing sattva to gradually increase within your life. You're allowing harmony and peace and balance to gradually increase within your life now. So that's the importance of cultivating these practices. This is how you're able to maintain and thrive within the path of Pravritti. All right? That's how you're able to maintain and thrive within this path of being engrossed in the vrittis. You can start small, you can start where you're at. You don't have to just move to the Himalayas and meditate. You wouldn't be able to do that, at least not without working your way up to it. So speaking of which, let us now talk about the other path, because that was harmonizing Pravritti. Now we're moving into Nivritti, the path of Niverty. Here we go. The other path is that of Nivritti, away from worldly experience and sensory experience. Ooh, I can leave a highlight. Uh-oh, never mind. Shouldn't have done that. Go ahead. It'll be fine. Okay, so the other path is that of Niverty, away from worldly experience and sensory experience. It is a path in which you become intently and intensely aware of your inner spirit and inner or spiritual dimensions of experiences. Nivriti means lessening of vrittis. So what we just learned about Pravritti is managing those vrittis. The path of Nivriti means lessening those vrittis. And this is the path going away from worldly experience and sensory experience. This is the path in which we become intensely aware of our inner spirit and the inner spiritual dimensions of experience. This is the magic right here. All right, let's continue. It is a path where the vrittis become less and less and gradually subside. The high peaks of vrittis become flat. You are not looking for an absence of vrittis, but management of vrittis. In the pravritti or external path, the spikes of vrittis are hard and sharp and take you to extremes of reactions and responses. Multiple, right? While in the nivritti path, the spikes of vrittis disappear and become a flat line. They don't have any hold or sway on your mind, and you are able to witness the play of vrittis as a drashta, as an observer or a seer. You are able to cultivate a transcendental vritti, which is not material or gross, and it's known as a Brahmi vritti, the transcendental mentality. The word Brahma is symbolic of the Supreme Spirit. The Supreme Spirit is genderless, and the word Brahma is also neither feminine nor masculine. It kind of brings to mind some of the Hebrew names of the God levels on the tree of life that we've been learning about, huh? Anybody who's also studying the Ladder of Lights with me? Some of these names of the gods, they're usually genderless. They're either both male and female or neither male and female. Pretty interesting, right? So, the Supreme Spirit is genderless, and the word Brahma is also neither feminine nor masculine. It comes from the root brinha, which means that which is continually expanding. Therefore, Brahma means the higher state which is continually evolving. Which Sephiroth does that remind you guys of? Maybe that gray one. Or maybe even this one, actually. Continually growing, continually expanding, right? The Brahmi Vritti is thus a state of consciousness which is free of material bondages. It does not carry any impression of the material existence. It is an internal state of freedom. Ooh. So this state does not carry any impression of the material existence. It is an internal state of freedom. That is the Brahmi Vritti. Whether you follow the material vritti or the Brahmi vritti, you must use the body, mind, senses, and intellect. Remember, that's the Antakarana. Remember, anytime you see these groups of four, body, mind, senses, intellect. Body, mind, senses, intellect. Antakarana. The thing I asked you guys to write down a long time ago. So he says, whether you follow the material vritti or the Brahmi vritti, you must use the body, mind, senses, and intellect when you exist in the world. The instruments of life are the same for a bogey as well as a yogi. Don't be a bogey, be a yogi. The difference between the two is seen in their mentality. A bogey likes to remain engrossed in the world and desires the pleasures of the world, whereas a yogi does not desire the pleasures of the world, but searches for the bliss of the self. The yogi does not wish to attach with the world, but tries to connect with the transcendental element. When you live in society, you are always attaching yourself with others, as these connections give you recognition, name, fame, position, and status. In the path of Niverty, you gradually free yourself from the bondages of the world and remain free. You remain in the world, but are free of the world. In the world, but not of the world. The scriptures give the example of a lotus in water. Just as a lotus grows in a swamp, but no drop of water is able to settle in it, so should be human life. This is an indication to walk the path of Niverty. To do so, to come to the point of experiencing the transcendental nature or mentality, you have to subject yourself to the cultivation of three powers. So, this is the three powers of Nivriti. He says, in order to walk the path of Nivriti, we have to subject ourselves to the cultivation of three powers. We have to start developing these three powers. All right. Ready for it, ready for it. Let's do this. The three powers of Nivriti. The first power of the Nivriti path is Tyaga, or renunciation. The second power of Nivriti is Samarpan, or dedication. The third is Vishwas, or belief. So we got renunciation, dedication, and belief. Renunciation, dedication, and belief. Renunciation, dedication, and belief are the tools of the Nivriti path. The path of Nivriti is the opposite to that of Pravritti. Imagine that there is a road going from north to south. When you are walking towards the north on that road, your back is to the south. You cannot see the southern direction. You can only see ahead in the northern direction. If you want to go south, you have to turn around so that your back is to the north and your face is to the south and start walking southwards. This is true of the paths of Pravritti and Niverty also. They are exact opposites of each other. In the path of Pravritti, you are facing the world. In Niverty, you turn your back to the world. In Pravritti, you turn your back to the divine. In Niverty, you look at the divine and turn your back to the world. This is where people fail to realize the difficulty of the spiritual journey. In order to turn away from the world, there has to be total disconnection, which people are unable to achieve. I have seen people who, instead of turning around, begin to walk backwards and say, I'm going towards Nivriti, and gradually distancing myself from the world. The concept of distancing does not apply in spiritual life. It's either yes or no, black or white. There is no gray in between. There's either sunlight or darkness. No edging. You gotta completely cut it off or don't even do it. When somebody asked Buddha, how can we know that we are progressing in spiritual life? Buddha replied, the only indication of progress in spiritual life is a reduction of desires, a reduction of obsessions and aspirations. Check out what Buddha said. The only indication of progress in spiritual life is a reduction of desires, a reduction of obsessions and aspirations. How many of you guys have begun to notice a reduction of desires, a reduction of obsessions, and a reduction of aspirations? How many people have started to feel that? That's an indication of progress in spiritual life. Something to think about. That's how you can look at your life and see that you're actually doing the work. A reduction of desires, a reduction of obsessions, a reduction of aspirations. I can definitely say that's been happening to me. I can definitely say that 1,000,000%. So many things that I used to be obsessed over and want doesn't even cross my mind anymore. Let's keep going. Yeah, Kite Mama says a lot of things losing their glamour with me. Right, you know what I'm saying? Like, you literally can't look at some of the things that used to, just get you off and make you just so excited and happy and so much fun. Like, it's not even the same. It's not even the same. And I don't mean like, I don't mean like a depression kind of thing. I mean just like, it's not enjoyable. It's just not enjoyable. So many things, right? It used to be fun to go to somebody's house and just drink a bunch of alcohol and just, I don't know, laugh and yell and just act retarded. Like, that used to be fun. I wouldn't want to waste my time right now. Like, more power to the people and the friends who still do that, right? Enjoy life, but that does not fill me with any kind of, like, I'm sitting there feeling like I'm wasting time if I do that. You know what I mean? Connor Black says, all I want are books, food, and clothes, right? Stuffed dog, peace, bro. I've been feeling this, a reduction of desires and dedication. I thought it was something wrong with me, like I was turning into a bum or something. Yeah, that's what the struggle is, man. I completely know. Like, hell, even I've been questioning myself. There was a period of time where I'm like, wow, even the things that I wanted to do creatively, I don't even want to do anymore. Like, I wanted to do this and this and this, but it's like, legit, all I want to do is meditate and focus on getting to know spirit. Like, that's the only thing I want to do. And I'm wondering, like, well, shit, I might want to not give up everything because, I got work to do. I don't even want to do that. But I'm also understanding that once you start getting more and more like that, the issue now is you have to let go of what you're relying on to guide you. And to make that more clear, instead of me relying on my conscious mind so much to give me the answers, I have to literally rely on the abstract mind, on the unconscious, on spirit, right? Just one example of that is in my showers, I used to use that time when I was showering. I used to use that time to go over my day and plan out my ideas. I'm going to do this and I'm going to work on this and I got to work on that. And I got to talk to these people. I got to do this. That's what I did in the shower. I was relying on my own conscious mind and my own thought process to, chart my direction. But in these past few years, I had to let that go. And I really use the shower time as a time to do some of my deeper meditations because it's easy for me to disconnect from my body when I'm in the shower. So I use that time to focus only on the meditations that I do. And I found that in doing so, that has gradually and subtly changed me on deeper levels. And it's no longer where I have to plan things out. The correct things that I need for my mission are brought to my attention. Like, literally, things are brought to my attention that must be done, and it's always within my power, within my capability. Everything, it's literally a path already laid out, and I just walk it. But if I were to sit here and panic, oh no, this didn't work, or this isn't gonna work, and relying on the conscious mind and the five senses, I wouldn't be able to walk this path. I think a lot of you guys will have to be able to do that, to release conscious control of every single thing, right? I'm not saying just give up. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, in order to continue, there will be a point where you're going to have to trust a higher intelligence than your own. You know what I'm saying? And it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. Like, you might get what I'm saying, but there's an even deeper level of what you think. And then you might be able to grasp that deeper level, and it goes even deeper than that. And I'm legit feeling like it's going to get to a point where I just don't even worry about anything whatsoever. But, we'll talk more about that later. Let's stay focused on where we are currently. Al Dickey says trade the Jordans in for New Balance. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody can't do it. Okay, where were we? Okay, when somebody asked Buddha, how can we know that we are progressing in spiritual life? Buddha replied, the only indication of progress in spiritual life is a reduction of desires, a reduction of obsessions and aspirations. All these gradually lessen as you walk the spiritual path. They cease to have any hold on you. When that happens, know that you are becoming free of the gross vrittis which hold the mind and bind it to the world of senses. Use this opportunity to cultivate the Brahmi vritti. Therefore, the three stages of spiritual life, or the vritti path, renunciation, dedication, and belief, have to be understood in the right perspective. All right, so the next section, ladder of Tyaga. The disconnection, renunciation, or Tyaga, so this is about the renunciation aspect. The disconnection, renunciation, or Tyaga being spoken of here is a simple process. It is not an intellectual method. You don't think, I must leave this. When you go up a ladder, your feet automatically leave the lower rungs. First, you get a firm hold on the next step, and then let go of the lower step. This is Tyaga, right? This is renunciation. This is non-attachment. And it is possible only when you hold on to something better. Right? So it's not just like you're just throwing your life away and leaving everything behind. It's like you're walking up a ladder. As soon as you grab that rung that's higher than the previous one, as soon as you grab it, you let go of the one that you're leaving. So it's a more automatic process like that. If you want to discard a negative attribute, first get a hold of something positive. Establish yourself in positivity, and negativity will automatically be left behind. So see, it's a process that works together. It's not like you're doing something strange or foreign or something scary. When you naturally have something better, you can't go back to what was not of the same quality. You won't be satisfied. If you turn Tyaga into an intellectual thought of, from today I'm going to cast this off, you will not be able to do so. Many people have tried it and have been unsuccessful. What is there to renounce? It is not possible to renounce the external world because everyone is a part of the same environment. Even a saint cannot renounce the world. How can anyone renounce the world when they are unable to renounce the body, the senses, the mind, the feelings and emotions, the beliefs and intellect, the samskaras and the karmas? You can't renounce any of that. What is the meaning of renouncing home and hearth? Nothing. You can leave behind your family, your home, your friends, your country, but they cannot be renounced. They can be left behind until the journey of your life brings you back to the same spot. You have left them behind for a limited time, but you have not renounced them. What you need to renounce is the obsessions of the mind. That is the most difficult renunciation, the most difficult Tyaga. How do you renounce your obsessive desires and thoughts, your tamasic nature? There goes tamas again. How do you renounce your tamasic nature? To find the answer, Tyaga, or renunciation, must be seen from a different perspective. Not as renunciation of something, but as attainment of something better. Right? So look, when he's talking about renunciation and renouncing the world, he's not talking about turning your back away and putting on, that the Kanye West clothes and the sackcloth and the ugly shoes. He's not saying do that and you live as a bum, right? He's not saying that, go into the mountains and living in an ashram and meditating forever. That's not what he's saying. This is not about anything external. This is not about how it looks. It's not a look. It's not a fashion. It's not something that you do. He says what you need to do To renounce, what you need to renounce is the obsessions of the mind. That is the most difficult renunciation, the most difficult tyaga. How do you renounce your obsessive desires and thoughts, your tamasic nature? To find the answer, tyaga must be seen from a different perspective, not as renunciation of something, but as attainment of something better. Right? So it's not living as a bum out on the street, giving up the world. It's attaining something better. And when you attain something better, you naturally let go. Right? Didn't we just talk about before? There's things that I used to enjoy before, but I can't enjoy them because I found something better. It is so much better to spend my time studying divine information than it is to be watching Netflix all day, right? For me, that's what I found. I get more out of this than I get out of sitting in front of Netflix and binging for hours and hours and hours. I would be very unhappy if I had to do that. I would be unhappy because I would feel like I'm not spending my time properly. So that's what he says here. Not as renunciation of something, but as attainment of something better. With such attainment, that which is useless will automatically be left behind. So look, I automatically left behind. I don't even have a TV. There's not even an urge to put a TV in the living room because, I mean, really, who's going to use it? There was one here, but it's gone. The person who used to live here took it with them, and it hasn't been replaced. When you find something better, you naturally release the things that you had previously that are useless, right? That is why when you begin your journey on the path of Nivritti, you need to first know and understand yourself. You have to first identify your samskaras and karmas. Nivritti is a path on which you are nobody's friend or companion. I told you the story of Mr. Atmaram, right? The guy who owned the hotel, or he made many friends in the hotel. Miss Desire, Misunderstanding, Mr. Pride, Mr. Avarice. The manager of the hotel, Mr. Moneyram, right? So Atmaram was the visitor, the traveler on the way to the City of Light. Then he got stuck at Hotel Earth. He made many friends in the hotel. Miss Desire, Misunderstanding, Mr. Pride, Mr. Avarice. The manager of the hotel, Moneyram, also had many companions. However, when the guide came to the hotel, everyone said, he lives alone. He does not interact with anyone or talk to anyone. He is happy on his own. The residents could not even meet the guide, as he would always remain locked in his room. How many of y'all remain locked in your room because you don't want to meet the other residents of Hotel Earth? You dig. You dig. Think about it. If you have to keep yourself free from envy, like, dislike, attachment, and desire, and experience inner balance, peace, and joy, what would you have to do? You would have to disassociate from all these things. If you spend all your time with Miss Desire, all you will see is desire. If your friend is Mr. Pride, you will remain immersed in pride. Remember the different levels of consciousness in Power versus Force? I gotta flash this book a million times. Maybe you will see the importance in checking this out. The more you remain engrossed in the world, the more this horde of worldly figures will rule over you. You have to make the effort to become free of the worldly vrittis, and there is only one way of doing that. It is often stated in history and in stories that people renounce society and go into solitude in forests, mountains, and caves so they can practice spiritual sadhana. However, can this step transform someone who has been following the Pravritti path all along into a person who now follows the Nivritti path? Wisdom and experience say no, because it is very easy to renounce the external things. Get this. It is very easy to renounce the external things, but the threads that bind internally are very difficult to cut off. How can they be cut off? In the presence of the Guru. Doug's Unlimited Peace. Living in the Zone, peace. Nefera Sakmet, peace. Let's talk about Guru, brain and heart surgeon. The strength to follow the Niverty path is obtained with the help of a guru. A guru is not a spiritual teacher. In the absence of an appropriate word or proper understanding, the word guru is equated with teacher, but its literal meaning is dispeller of darkness. It does not mean teacher or master, but one who sheds light upon the dark confines of your nature. One who sheds light upon the dark confines of your nature. The guru is the agent of inspiration and shows the method by which you can understand renunciation, dedication, and belief. The guru is both brain and heart surgeon. As brain surgeon, the guru tells you to observe your own mind and nature and finally tweak the mind and personality. If there is negativity, the guru may say, "Don't be so negative, think of something positive." The follower may, under the sway of negative influence, ignore the mandate of the guru and be carried away by the negative force and continue to scream. Continue to scream, yell, shout, and fight. The guru has shown you the way by saying, stop fighting, stop struggling, think of something nice. Think of connecting yourself with people rather than alienating from people. Doug's Unlimited. If you can follow that guideline, you will improve. If you ignore it, you will continue to be in the same rut. Therefore, the guru is the brain or mind surgeon. Due to his teachings, input, and inspiration, it is possible to bring about a positive change in the functions of the mind and behavior. There's a few pictures here in this book just showing some pictures of when he gave this book. But yeah, there's basically the author, Swami Niranjan Ananda Saraswati. And there's his teacher, Swami Satyananda, and here is his teacher, Sivananda, Swami Sivananda. So Swami Sivananda taught and trained Satyananda. Satyananda taught and trained Niranjan Ananda. And he is now the head of the Bihar School of Yoga. Here's a picture of Sivananda, the original guy. And I believe that is Satyananda, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not. I'm not sure who that is. And here's Niranjan Ananda, the guy who wrote this book. You'll also see him on the cover of Dharana Darshan. I don't think this is the book where he's wearing. No. Yeah, and here's Niranjan Ananda, and here is Swami Satyasanga Ananda. She wrote Taught with Shuddhi. All right, so she's the one who wrote Taught with Shuddhi. He's the one that wrote Dharana Darshan and all these books that we're reading this month. And then there's his teacher, Satyananda, who has meditated himself to the next plane in front of his students. So he actually did the work all the way to the end, to the point that he transcended on purpose before his students. There is a meditation technique where you leave the body on purpose. And before doing so, he gradually worked on erasing all his karmas so that he could finally transcend without having to come back, or at least as far as we know. I'm extremely 1,000% positive there's more to the story that we aren't ready to know. And maybe some of us will find out. But this reality is usually on a need-to-know basis, so you know how that goes. It's an ABC conversation, so see your way out of it. We used to really say that. ABC conversation. You can see your way out of it. This is an ABC conversation, and you can see your way out of it. All right, that's enough of that elementary school stuff. All right, let's continue. In 1995, the first Satchandi Yajna was held in Rikiya. It was the first major function in Rikiya. We are all very active, and I was in the thick of things. When the program started and the Satchandi Puja commenced, Sri Swamiji called me and said, "You will sit in that puja." I said, "How is that possible? You know that I have so many things to do and look into. You want me to sit in that puja? How can I manage that?" He said, "Just sit in the puja and forget everything else." So I sat down and I had to tweak my mind intensely to bring it back down from all the places it was running to. Bring it back to the puja and hold it there. I found that because I had trust and belief in my guru, I was able to do that instantly. Within a minute, I became totally focused and centered and forgot everything else that I was involved in. Nothing bothered me anymore. Only for one moment, the thought had come, how am I going to manage it? But then belief took over, and I said to myself, if my guru wants, it will happen. It did happen. If you allow the guru to tweak your mind, then you can overcome many mental problems and difficulties that you face in life because of maladjustment, misunderstanding, or mistakes. Those friends in Hotel Samsara. The guru is also a heart surgeon. I'll read that again. If you allow the guru to tweak your mind, then you can overcome many mental problems and difficulties that you face in life because of maladjustment, misunderstanding, or mistakes, those friends in Hotel Samsara. The guru is also a heart surgeon. First, he performs surgery on the mind, bringing in positivity, optimism, hope, and clarity. And the second surgery is on the heart. After the head is clear, he connects your heart with the divine. Therefore, the first role of the guru is as head surgeon, and the second is as heart surgeon. When he performs surgery on your heart, you are freed from the selfish nature and acquire a selfless quality. You rise above selfishness. All the past conditionings of life come to an end. All differences cease to exist. And such a disciple says, Ishwara, Allah, Vahe, Guru, Chaahe, Kaho, Sri Rama. Malik Sab Ka Eka Hai, Alag Alag Hai Nam. And that translates to, call him Ishwara, Allah, Vaheguru, or Sri Rama. Many are the names, but the Lord of all beings is one. All differences come to an end. If the heart surgery is not performed, you keep regretting your shortcomings. That is why a guru is needed. The disciple who allows the guru to have access to his or her life is able to follow the Niverty path, in which Tyaga, or renunciation, Samarpan, or dedication, and Vishwas, or belief, become the forces which propel one forward in the journey and discovery of the transcendental nature.
So good and tasty.
Greetings, Nate Jones. So first the head surgery, and then the heart surgery. And usually without a guru, the heart surgery is not performed, and you keep regretting your shortcomings. You keep advancing on the path and having subtle pangs of regret and beating yourself up and shit like that. So it is helpful to have someone kind of help guide the path. It is helpful. But yeah, as usual, this was a very informative session. He gave several implementable things, right? He gave several things to do. Check this out. A lot of people just talk about the problem, or they talk abstractly about the solution. In this whole chapter, he gave so many things to do. If what you want is growth on this path and you don't do any of these things, then that means that you don't want to. right? Because remember last night we talked about Chesed on the Tree of Life and how everybody doesn't ascend. Some people make it to a certain level, but the very core of their being doesn't want to exist in the first place. So they dissolve. In other words, if what you actually want is to make it to the finish line, then it behooves you to do something different. Even if it's just, like you said, picking one of these mantras and doing it first thing in the morning. Even if it's just meditating for 5 minutes before you go to sleep, right? Even if it's just doing one of the 5 meditation postures. He gave so many different things that you can do. Even if it's just managing your speech, managing your thoughts, and managing your sensory attraction to pleasure. So many different things that you could do. You don't have to do it all right now, but do something. If what you want is to advance on this path, to have mastery over your mind, and to change your life in such a way that you stop getting tossed around by everything that happens. This is why I love the Vedic information, because it's so concise, it's so clear cut, it's right to the point. Nothing is like, a mystery. There's no mystery here. It tells you straight up what everything is about. Everything. If there is a mystery, that just means you got to read a little bit more. But there's no mystery when it comes to this Vedic information. Maybe somewhere else, maybe somebody else's channel. But this stuff right here is just plain and simple. Lani Alderdice says, wow, us Westerners really not advanced as we think we are, LOL, but the truth is spilling out. Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, I'm so glad that we got to go over what was in Chesed. I'm really starting to like that book. I can't wait to start reading the auth. But yeah, just if you guys actually have, and I know we're getting off, not ever getting off topic, but if you guys have Ladder of Lights, I'd recommend going back over that chapter that he talked about, Giburo and Chesed. Like, he really dropped something there that I'm still thinking about. Chapters 8 and chapter 9, and about how the masses, right, the group soul that we're looking at, we're always, as soon as we start getting some information, the first thing we want to do is try to save everybody. Well, look, everybody's not here to be saved. You woke up for a reason. Some people are going to go right back to the cosmic recycling bin, and that's okay. That was the point in the first place. So if you waste all your energy trying to bring enlightenment, quote unquote, to someone who was never even heading in that direction, you're literally wasting your energy. Let the universe handle this thing. Let the universe handle this thing. You can't save her. She don't want to be saved, right? Isn't that what one of these rappers say? And it's a perfect system. Like, there's no mistake. There's no mistake, right? You can actually find a PDF of Ladder of Lights. It exists, I know, because I was letting my little app read it to me, and I got that through a PDF. So you can find a PDF. Go back and check that out, especially for those of you who are doing work with any egregores or servitors or any of these little spirits that you created, right? That was extremely key. That really stuck out to me because, I do work with mimetic magic. I do work with egregores and servitors and Goetia and all that stuff. Those 2 chapters were key. All right. But I said that to say there are a lot of people who are just here for entertainment, and that's okay. That really is okay. But if you're someone who's not here for just entertainment, if you're someone who is here because you want to control your mind, you want to start gaining more of these abilities and understanding how all this works, you want to eliminate confusion, you want to eliminate being overwhelmed by all this information and get right to where, you can use some of this stuff for yourself. If that's you, then listen to this audio again, or get this book and read this chapter and look at all the different things that he pointed out that you can easily do, right? Look at all the things he pointed out that you can easily do. And guess what? He also explained why. He didn't just tell you to do something. He also explained why, and that's the important part. That's what you want to look for in a teacher. He talked about that you identifying sattva, right? Identifying the strengths of the mind. That gives you the foundation. Then you want to identify the tamasic aspects. Identify the limitations, the weaknesses, the limitations that you didn't recognize because of lack of maturity, right? Identify all those. Then he says, realize the force of rajas. Realize what's driving you, right? Realize what's pushing you. And is that passion? Is that ambition? Is it driving you towards destruction, or is it driving you towards upliftment? Right? You want to look at that. Analyze. He's telling you to analyze your mind. He's not telling you to worship any crazy entity. He's not telling you to send him a bunch of money. He's not telling you to join his group. He's not telling you to do none of that. He's saying sit down and look at yourself, right? And if you're unwilling to do that, and in the same breath you're talking about, I'm a god, we enlightened beings, well, we should be able to turn this world, if you're saying all that stuff and you're not willing to sit down and look at yourself, stop saying that, right? Stop saying that. Go do what everyone else is doing that you're complaining about, and stop saying that. Because if you're not going to do the work, you do not have a right to complain. He talked about practicing seeing the other side of the coin, right? If there's something that makes you feel good and feel happy, understand that there's an ugly part of it as well. See the whole picture and not just what feels good, right? Because the sense organs, remember we talked about the indriyas, the karmendriyas, the jnanendriyas, those organs of the body, it seeks to please itself, right? It seeks to go find pleasure. Understand that that's what's going on. I know, you want to taste the sweet sugar, you want to please the body, you want to please the ears and the eyes, you want to do all that stuff, but you want to be the one in control, the one driving that ship. You don't want that ship driving you, because then you're really going to have to ask, who's in control here? My body desires or me? You already know, for most people, it's the body desire. Most people cannot resist running towards pleasure, right? Court Singh says, I think it's because what's taught to us on what happens after death, why we feel we need to save everyone, at least in my case. You're absolutely right, right? And that grim perspective of, going to hell or you going to heaven, all that stuff, it does make us want to save the ones that we care about. And there's nothing wrong with it. But what I'm saying is seek understanding about that. Seek understanding about it. Because if you really understand what's going on these higher levels, it's but much deeper than heaven and hell, right? It's much deeper than heaven. Those who are not going to become privy to this information, they already weren't going to. They're not at the evolutionary level yet. They're not at the spiritual evolutionary level. And that's fine, because at some point you were there. And it's not up to you. It's not your job. It's not your job to enlighten people. It's your job to enlighten yourself. And as a side effect, those around you who are prepared, they will receive some of that light as well. But you cannot ever force it on anybody, especially if they don't have eyes to see in the first place. That don't even make sense. But yeah, I've talked about the Antakarana, which is the inner instrument, the tool that we use to cognize reality. The higher self, the ego, the mind and memory, and then the body mind. Right? And that's what's going on right here. And these are coming out of Prakriti, which is the totality of manifest and unmanifest dimension, right? That's Prakriti. And she's composed of those three gunas. If you were to ask what three ingredients make up Prakriti, if you were to zoom in, you'd see those three molecules bouncing around. Proton, neutron, electron, whatever, right? You see that the three gunas are what creates her. And within her, if you zoom into her, well, you don't have to because we're already in her. These bodies belong to Prakriti. The house that you're in, the phone that you're holding, the air that you're breathing, the thoughts that you're thinking, everything in this manifest dimension belongs to Prakriti. It is a part of her. It's all matter, all energy. All of this is Prakriti. Everything that you can sense with your five senses, all of the five elements. It's almost like, you're playing a video game, and all the ones and zeros and all the programming it took to create the game that you can't even see, That's all within the computer. That's all within Prakriti. The wave and the light form and the particles and the holographic universe, all that is Prakriti. Now on the outside, on the other side of this yin yang, is consciousness, your soul. It is not her. It's not her. But because they are close to each other, she dances because he's near. She moves and gyrates and conforms and becomes something because the presence of soul, right? Because the presence of soul, she takes form. Because of the presence of soul, Prakriti or matter, Mother Nature, right? Isis takes form and it becomes something. And it begins to mimic him, right? It's almost like she meets somebody amazing and now she wants to become more adaptable. So she begins to develop consciousness, a form of higher self and ego and memory and a body. And the body begins to have the 5 senses of knowledge and the 5 senses of action, right? And you begin to develop sound and sight and touch and all these different effects. You begin to develop the 5 elements, all these things that we experience in this world. And then here's the problem though. Purusha now she became wrapped up in him. Soul becomes wrapped up in her. Now soul thinks that it exists as matter. Soul begins to identify with these things. Soul begins to feel the things that feel good and taste good and sound good and smell good, and begins to think that he is matter, right? Begins to identify with the clothes and the job and the title and the family and the name and the memories, begins to identify with all this stuff. Oh, I'm a earth sign, I'm a water sign, I'm a fire sign, I'm an air sign. Oh, I believe in Ophiuchus. I'm a Pleiadian, right? Oh, my melanin popping. All these different things, not realizing that none of this exists. None of this exists in the first place. It's all fluctuations and vibrations and major vrittis, right? But the truth of the matter is that this is all an illusion, right? Maya, illusory force. None of this is even really happening. And at some point, Prakriti is going to return back to her unmanifest state, which is complete harmony and balance. And that's when she's not looking at him anymore and he's not looking at her anymore. She will return back to her calm state, right? But the sin is, we talk about Eve ate the apple. In the Bible, they weren't kicked out of the Garden of Eden when Eve ate the apple. They weren't kicked out when Eve ate the apple. When Adam ate it, and Adam started to see and believe that he was a manifested thing. But she begins to conform to the shape of, speaking of Adam and Adam Kadmon, that's where we have in the cover of Mystical Kabbalah. See? Purusha, the soul, Adam Kadmon, he's not the tree. He's behind the tree. He's somewhere else. But notice how the manifest dimension began to take form around him and began to shape and conform and become a semblance of him, right? The same way that your physical body has taken on the shape and the pattern of your etheric body. And guess what? Your etheric body has taken on the shape and the pattern of your astral body. And guess what? Your astral body has taken on the shape and the pattern of your mental body. The mental body took on the shape and the pattern of the causal body, right? You see how that pattern goes? It's all about patterns. And that's why we're studying the patterns so that we can understand the essence behind the patterns, right? We're learning the essence behind these patterns. And the big problem is because consciousness believes that it is matter, we start making all these fluctuations, all these vrittis. We start believing that we are matter. We start believing that we're these bodies and these ideas and these thoughts, and we just believe all this stuff, and it is untrue. Because when we remove all the things that cause you to think and feel this way, what's left, right? What's left if a law passed and you can't, what if Birkin bags are no longer created? What if the phones are crushed and destroyed and stop working? What if the power grid goes out and you no longer have your internet profiles, right? What if all of electricity goes away? What are you left with? Hell, what if the sun goes out and you can't see anything anymore? What are you? What if you lose your vision and you lose your sound and your sense of smell and taste? What are you left with? When all of matter goes away, when all this physical manifest dimension goes away, what are you left with? Because once this body dies and the mind stops, you're still there. You don't just blink out of existence. That's ignorant. You don't just vanish. What you were and what you have always been is still remaining there. But the problem is, if you continue believing that what you were is what you are, you're going to seek out another body. You're going to seek out another womb somewhere, and you're going to try to incarnate again. If you never learn that you are not matter, you're going to keep coming back. You're going to continue to manifest and reincarnate. You're going to continue to seek a vessel to incarnate within. You're going to go up the tree a little bit and come right back down. And you might make it up here. At least up here, you can make a conscious decision to stay with the effort to help, right? And this is where the Ascended Masters are. And they channel information down to the students. So doing the work is the process of learning, of know thyself. And know thyself means to understand all the different pieces. You're not the body. You're not your emotions. You're definitely not your emotions. You're not your thoughts. You're not your personality. You're not any of this that you haven't experienced of. You're none of that. All of this belongs to Earth and Prakriti. All these things, all the memories, you're not going to take them with you because they belong to Prakriti. She'll collect it. She'll keep it for you. Don't worry. You don't have to carry that burden. What you are is beyond the 5 elements. What you actually are is beyond the 5 senses. It's called transcendental. It is beyond the influence of the gunas. Remember, I keep showing you the gunas? Those 3, generator, operator, destroyer. What you actually are is beyond the influence of the gunas. We're looking at the microcosm, right? I showed you that little tree of life. What you are is far beyond the microcosm. Far beyond it. So you know the soul? All of this is traced upward, and it is all absorbed and resolved. Maya, the illusory force. Keep in mind, though, just take a look at this, by the way. You got this, it's really a triad up here. Shiva, Shakti, and Brahma. Brahman is where they unite. Remember, this book here talked about Brahman. And you've also got this triad here. And there's a veil separating this veil of Maya, illusionary force. And notice what we've got going on here just below the triad. You got that veil of Thoth, right? Very similar, that veil of Maya. Because once you cross that abyss, you don't come back. Once you go back up over that abyss, you don't come back because you can't come back. The same way you wake up from the matrix and you can't go back to it. Once you become unplugged, for real. But you're not able to do that unless you completely release matter, unless you completely release ego, unless you completely release memory, unless you completely release personality, until you completely reduce and release everything that you thought you were. Till you release all of that, then you're able to cross. But that's a very hard task, very difficult task. Extremely difficult task. And that's why we do the work. That's why we do the work. And that's why some people give up. Some people disintegrate and dissolve, and we absorb them, and we do the work for their pieces. Well, that's the story that we don't even have to worry about, because we're not dark side cliphotic vampires. I'm a dark side cliphotic vampire. So yeah, all this to say, long story short, the important thing is to understand that you are not the body, you're not your thoughts, you're not even your personality, you're not your memories, you're none of that. How do you find out what you are? You gotta sit down and be still, go into some meditation. This chapter that I read today gives you so many different techniques that you can do. Try 1 or 2 of them and see where it leads you, see where it takes you. That's the main thing. That's the main thing. Pick something. Try it, test it. Don't just take his word for it. Don't just take my word for it. Test it yourself and see what you come out with. If it's bogus, if it's bullshit, put it down, walk away. But if you actually do get some kind of change, then try something else. Add on to it. Develop your practice. All right. But I hope everybody got some useful information here. I hope so. I hope so. Like I said, I enjoy doing this, and I'm gonna do this as much as possible. Good point, Stuff Dog. Stuff Dog says that's why Bobby Hemmett said we are older than the gods, right? Because the gods are a part of the manifest dimension. And what we actually are is transcendental. We're beyond the manifest dimension. You're exactly right. That's why Bobby Hemmett said that. And when I go back and watch those Bobby Hemmett videos, I really see that he was on it, dude. And most people do not understand what he was actually talking about. Like, we get bits and pieces, but everything that he says is lining up with this same stuff here. Because remember, he was studying the Rig Veda. He was studying the Vedic text. He was in this same place that we are. And it seems like nobody touched it since. I mean, I'm sure somebody has, but I haven't seen. I don't have the whole internet on my phone. Maybe y'all saw somebody. But I didn't see anybody really talking about this Vedic information before I started touching it here. But yeah, I've been watching some of his stuff here and there because, they keep releasing some of his videos on these other channels. And like a lot of what he was saying, it still connects to all, like he never says something where it's like, Bobby, that's kind of off. You know what I'm saying? I haven't heard that. Some people didn't like the thing where he talked about putting a cap of bleach in your in that beverage, but aside from that, everything he said metaphysically and spiritually lines up. And he might have had to adjust the words for the audience at the time, but man, the more he who has eyes to see, let him hear. And she who has ears to hear, let her hear.
I am for real. Never meant to make your daughter cry. I apologize 1,000,000,000 times.
Me and your daughter got a special thing going on. Peace, Virez Beats. Peace. I hear you, bro. Truly life-changing information if you take it seriously. Truly. Like, I'm not even just saying that. It's changed my life for certain, so I know. And I thought I knew something before reading this. Gerald Sunbright. They're devouring souls out here. Hide your kids, hide your wife. Right. They're gonna have some extra work to do, right? Talking all that shit about the people who aren't doing the work, yet they devouring these souls. Well, how gracious of them to take that heavy workload for themselves. Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, guys. Well, that being said, we finished a little bit early tonight. That's good. Maybe I'll make myself some pesto and pasta. And stay tuned. We got some very cool things coming up, y'all. Yeah, I'm not going to say exactly what, but if you're clever and pay attention, you might be able to guess. We got something in store for you coming a little bit later this year. You know what I'm saying? Once all the ducks align and all the pieces come together as they are. You know what I'm saying? As the pieces come together as they are. Yeah. And like I said before, if you're interested in getting personally trained by me, personally coached by me, I'm opening my class one more time February, because it looks like what I've got planned, the big thing, I'm not gonna have time to do the class. So this is gonna be the last round of the class. I might put it on autopilot or something. If you want me to teach you a framework and a system to really get into contact with your higher self, and to know the practices and the meditations and everything you need to do, to have it all spelled out for you step by step, even a freaking daily chart for the meditations that you can do, right? Each and every day, and breaking each one of them down. Really get into the details so that you know exactly what needs to be done. And of course, explaining and describing the process. Hit me up, let me know. Like I said, this might be the last time that I hold it because I'm going to be so focused on what's going on with the Magus Academy app. All right, that's probably going to take up all my time, and I might not have any time but to read these books, right? And maybe do the Sundays. But before all that goes down, go ahead and get in contact with me about the class. And of course, I'll give you all the books that I got my information from. Got some one-on-one information customized specifically to what you got going on. Hit me up, let me know. We'll see if it's right for you. And if not, that's cool. But like I said, got something massive in store for you guys. I can't wait. Cannot wait. I'm talking about something that y'all never seen before. Do you hear me? Something I still ain't seen and probably aren't gonna see until I do it. But let me stop before I tell on myself too much. All right. So this was great. I guess one more thing I could do for those of you who are still here, if you want, there was two things that I mentioned. If you want, I could grab that Asana book. Maybe we can see if we can find those Asanas. Also, I could link my Mahamrityunjaya and what's that other one? Gayatri mantra, if you want. If not, you can always find it yourself, which might be good to do. It might be good. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandim Pushti Vardhanam. Cosmic Chlorophyll. My email is travismagus777 at gmail.com. All right, so hold on. I'm gonna grab those two meditations that I do, the Mahamrityunjaya and the Gayatri. I'm gonna grab those and I'm gonna put them in the link if that person who asked for them is still here. If they're not, then it's all good. Because I did say to ask me in the comments, and I'd put it. And I will if somebody asks in the comments. But if you want it right now because you're about to go to sleep and you want to go ahead and do the mantra, then I can put it in the chat.
This is the story of a girl who cried a river and drowned the whole world. And she looked so sad in photographs.
Let's change that radio station, shall we?
My mind's telling me no. But that crack, y'all, the crack keeps telling me yes. Gotta go.
Real life Looney Tunes. Bum 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 ba-da-da-dum ba-da-da-dum ba-dum 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 ba-da-da-dum ba-da-da-dum da-dum. I'm currently getting the link so I can post it in the chat, so bear with me just a minute. Mahamrityunjaya. I got like a whole Mahamrityunjaya playlist actually. Let me grab that playlist. I should have done that in the first place. Then you can decipher what you want to listen to. Bum 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 ba-da-da-dum ba-da-da-dum ba-dum 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 ba-da-da-dum ba-da-da-dum ba-dum ba-da-dum ba-da-da-dum ba-dum 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 ba-da-da-dum da-da-da-dum ba-bum bum bum da-da-da-dum. Still grabbing that link. Hold on. I gotta find it because I got so many different videos. So, oh, there it is. Let me grab that and I will copy and paste it into the chat, and then you guys will have it so that you can listen to it. D Brown, you were absolutely right. D Brown says, I haven't heard anybody between you and Bobby Hemmett dropping this science, but definitely these occultists been eating heavy from this science. Well, yeah. Absolute factuals. All right, copy link. I mean, you might have even already been able to find this on my page, to be honest. So I'm posting right now. That's a playlist, and the Gayatri mantra in there is the one that I like. And these are like a collection of my favorite Mahamrityunjayas, for real. You can use these, and like what